A global education summit in London has raised $4 billion for education in poor countries. Charities, though, say the amount is less than hoped for, calling it underwhelming. A public inquiry into the murder of Maltese investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia has found that the state bore responsibility for her death. The report said the government had failed to recognise risks to her life and take reasonable steps to protect her. COVID cases in Japan have surged. Local media report infections across the country have exceeded 10,000 cases for the first time. Top medical advisors have urged the government to issue stronger warnings about the virus. The USA's Sunisa Lee has won the women's all-around gold medal. It's the fifth time in a row the US gymnast has won the event. On Wednesday, US gymnast and four-time Olympic gold medalist Simone Biles pulled out of the competition. You're watching BBC World News. I'm Sean Lay with the latest headlines. A global education summit in London has raised $4 billion for education in poor countries. Charities, though, say the amount is less than hoped for, calling it underwhelming. A public inquiry into the murder of Maltese investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia has found that the state bore responsibility for her death. The report said the government had failed to recognise risks to her life and take reasonable steps to protect her. COVID cases in Japan have surged. Local media report infections across the country have exceeded 10,000 cases for the first time. Top medical advisors have urged the government to issue stronger warnings about the virus. The USA's Sunisa Lee has won the women's all-around gold medal. It's the fifth time in a row the US gymnast has won the event. On Wednesday, US gymnast and four-time Olympic gold medalist Simone Biles pulled out of the competition.
With the Delta variant driving a summer surge, Pfizer is again making the case that booster shots may be needed because its vaccine's effectiveness goes down after 6 months. All of this happening as 45 states are now seeing an increase in new COVID hospitalizations. Our Trevor Ault is live at a hospital in Tampa with more on that story. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. So these breakthrough infections and new research on the Delta variant is certainly causing some alarm. The CDC tightening its mask recommendations and booster shots are becoming a serious discussion. But make no mistake, this virus is hitting the unvaccinated much harder. As one doctor told me here in Tampa, this is already a bad situation and still an impending storm is coming.
Overnight, Major League Baseball postponing the Nationals-Phillies game because of a COVID-19 outbreak. 12 members of the Nationals testing positive, including 4 players. The team's manager saying he believed only one of them is unvaccinated.
I'm very concerned. I really worry about the health and safety of everybody, in our clubhouse.
With more breakthrough infections making headlines, Pfizer now calling for booster shots. The company revealing new data showing after 6 months, their vaccine's efficacy against COVID dropped from 96% to 84%. And that data comes from March, before the Delta variant became the dominant strain. Ultimately, the FDA will decide if booster shots are needed, but some people, like David Barron in Chicago, have already gotten them. David is immunosuppressed, and even after receiving both Moderna shots, doctors still couldn't detect antibodies in his system. So they made a special recommendation for him to get the J&J vaccine too.
Happy to say that I have an antibody response now.
The virus is inarguably surging across huge portions of the country. The average daily caseload up more than 50% from last week. But some hotspots, despite the spread, are pushing back against the experts. 7 states banning mask mandates, many more reporting lagging vaccinations. Health officials growing increasingly frustrated.
Do the responsible, common sense thing, get a shot.
The highest case rates are now in Louisiana and Florida. At Tampa General Hospital, the average COVID patient used to be in their 80s. Now they're in their 40s. The hospital has seen their COVID patient load increase 7-fold over the past 3 weeks. And in Oklahoma, Shane Satter spent his wedding anniversary on a ventilator in a coma. Now, in a fight for his life, his wife Liz says he didn't get the vaccine.
What if I would have just made him go get the shot? He probably wouldn't be in the position he's in today.
And health experts have noted as cases have been rising, vaccinations are starting to inch back up as well. We had nearly 500,000 people on Wednesday. That's the most we've had since July 1st. And the CDC has also changed their recommendations for vaccinated people. They say they should get tested and self-isolate after any potential COVID exposure. Michael?
All right, Trevor, thank you so much.
Japan has confirmed more than 10,000 daily coronavirus cases for the first time. The nationwide record is fueled by a surge of infections in the capital and surrounding area. That spike has the central government looking to expand the current emergency declaration to include 4 more prefectures.
The government is dealing with the situation with a strong sense of urgency. At the request of local governments, I decided to call a meeting of experts on Friday to discuss the state of emergency and quasi-emergency measures meant to curb the virus's spread.
Tokyo and Okinawa are under a state of emergency, while 4 other prefectures have less restrictive quasi-emergency measures in place. The government plans to expand the emergency to include Saitama, Chiba, Kanagawa, and Osaka. If the plan becomes final, 5 other prefectures would enter a quasi-emergency. Tokyo's case count topped 3,800 on Thursday, continuing a record-breaking upward trend. One expert within the metropolitan government called it an unprecedented explosive surge. The head of the government's expert panel is also concerned.
Now there are barely any factors that could curb the number of infections.
Omi warned Japan's healthcare system will soon be overwhelmed unless society shares a sense of crisis. Now, the World Health Organization says the number of deaths worldwide from the coronavirus jumped by 21% from the previous week. The WHO said over 69,000 people died in the week through July 25th. The Americas and Southeast Asia accounted for the greatest number of the fatalities. The weekly number of new infections topped 3.8 million, increasing for 5 weeks in a row. By country, the United States had the highest weekly number of new cases with over 500,000, followed by Brazil, Indonesia, and Britain. As of Sunday, the accumulated number of infected people across the globe stood at more than 193 million. The WHO warns if the virus spreads at its current pace, the number could exceed 200 million within the next 2 weeks. In the Tokyo Games, Japan's hot streak on the judo mat is still alight. Thursday brought 2 more golds in both men's and women's events. That's 6 straight days with a local athlete on top of the podium. Hamada Shori beat France's Malonga Madeleine in the final of the women's 78-kilogram category. Hamada won by ippon, blowing past her opponent in just 69 seconds of action. In the men's 100-kilo category, Wolf Aaron defeated South Korea's Cho Guham on a golden score ippon thanks to his sharp ouchigari. Wolf overcame surgery on both knees to bag Japan's first gold at this weight since Sydney 2000. U.S. swimmer Caleb Dressel remains on course for his goal of 6 gold medals here in Tokyo after he took his second in the men's 100-meter freestyle. Dressel took the lead in the first half of the race Thursday and held on to pip Australia's Kyle Chalmers in a new Olympic record time of 47.02 seconds. Dressel is also due to swim in the 50-meter freestyle and the 100-meter butterfly among his other events. After the race, he described his first-ever individual medal as really special. In the women's 800-meter freestyle relay, the Chinese team shattered the world record. China got off to a good start and never relinquished its early lead. The team's time of 7 minutes 40.33 seconds was more than a full second faster than the previous record set in 2019. Britain's 2-time rowing gold medalist Helen Glover goes home with a 4th-place finish, despite only returning to the sport this year after taking time out to have 3 children. Glover and Polly Swan finished just outside the medals in the women's pair on Thursday. Britain was the leading rowing nation at the last 3 Olympics. The 35-year-old Glover has 3 children under 5, with the youngest twins born last year. After deciding to make her comeback in January, Glover is the first mother to row for Britain at the Olympics. After the race, she said it was a very quick journey from having twins to being back on the start line. She added it just shows anything is possible. New Zealand pair Grace Prendergast and Kerry Goler took the title for their country's first gold of these games. Next in women's badminton, Japan's world #1 doubles pair Fukushima Yuki and Hirota Sayaka has tumbled out at the quarterfinal stage. They lost to a Chinese pair Thursday night, leaving Japan's badminton golden dreams at these games unfulfilled. Fukushima and Hirota started well, winning the first game, but their opponents came back strong in the next two to close out the match. On Sunday, Hirota revealed she sustained a severe ACL tear to her right knee in June that'll take 6 months to heal. She says she decided to put competing in Tokyo first and wore a knee brace during the games. After the match, Fukushima referred to Hirota's injury, saying it must have hurt, but she did her best for the team. Hirota said she was proud to take to the Olympic stage with Fukushima. Both were visibly moved to have taken part in their home games. The United States and India have agreed to deepen cooperation within their alliance with Japan and Australia to address China's growing presence in Asia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. Washington sees the Quad alliance as an important counterweight to China.
There is a greater imperative than ever, I think, on cooperation, coordination, collaboration among countries, especially among countries who share basic perspectives, basic values, and basic interests. And that is certainly the case with the United States and India.
Deepening the Quad as a collaborative platform is in our mutual interest, and we must work together even more closely on key contemporary challenges like terrorism.
Blinken also met with a representative of the Tibetan government in exile. The Tibetan side confirmed the meeting took place, but did not provide any details. It was the highest level meeting between the two sides since former President Barack Obama met with spiritual leader the Dalai Lama in 2016. Beijing protested the meeting at the time, saying the issue of Tibet was an internal matter of China. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has paid a visit to Vietnam. He is currently on a 3-nation tour of Southeast Asia, the first such visit by a key cabinet member of President Joe Biden's administration. The United States and Vietnam have been expanding their relationship in recent years. It comes at a time when Vietnam is at loggerheads with China over a disputed area of the South China Sea. Athletes from Myanmar are competing beneath the specter of an ongoing political crisis. The nation is now 6 months into a deadly military coup. And as NHK World's Sahataya Kraikuntot reports from our bureau in Bangkok, many find it difficult to celebrate.
I have to say the local attention is not high. Even the state-run media shows only brief updates on the games. 2 athletes from Myanmar competed in shooting and badminton, but both were eliminated in the qualifying rounds. Before the games kicked off, I spoke to Ye Chun Nao, who participated in the shooting event. When asked his opinion about participating during the turmoil, he expressed mixed feelings.
I'm happy and proud to get this chance to represent Myanmar in the Olympics. It doesn't mean much for me since I'm not involved in any political businesses. I just do sports.
In addition to the coup, a surge of coronavirus cases threatens to overwhelm the country's medical system. The numbers of deaths have hit record highs on a daily basis. A local journalist told NHK the country is in survival mode.
Sadly, people in Myanmar are not really talking about the Olympic widely because the country has, in the crisis, the political crisis, of course, we have the pandemic as well. So people are not really paying attention that much to the sport, not only the Olympic.
The coup and the pandemic are causing confusion among athletes. Some refuse to take part in the tournament. Myanmar's top swimmer boycotted the games. Winted U told NHK that he cannot compete in Tokyo while the country is under military control.
I just hope to tell the world that this isn't just